to another episode of Inquiring Minds. I'm Steve Harper, and with me is Donna Carlin. Donna, how are you doing today?
I'm just great. Thank you. And yourself?
I'm great. I'm looking forward to today's conversation. So, what are we diving into today?
I really appreciate your trust considering you have no idea what I'm going to throw at you and you just take it. It's fantastic. How often does that happen, right? Well, with
Well, I
us every
try.
week. Yeah,
I may
that's it.
look confident on screen, but I'm panicked behind these eyes.
Oh,
No, I'm
no,
just
you're
kidding.
not. You're terrific. So last week we talked about toxicity and wherever it appears, we need to put a stop to it for our mental health and well-being. And I thought I'd continue because there was a second part to that piece that I read that I thought was really terrific. So I want to throw it at you
Yeah.
and see what we come up with. And I also think it would be a good topic for our listeners to engage in once they sign up for our Facebook group and all that fun stuff. So it's if you want better mental health, start by looking at your mental diet. When I read that, I'm going, is that cool or what?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This includes what you watch, what you read, how you think, who you follow, and who you're spending time with. If your goal is to have a healthier mind this year, start by removing all the junk from your diet.
I love
Isn't
that.
that cool?
That is cool and very important.
Yeah.
I mean, last week's episode we're talking about toxic people, right? But toxic, information comes at us from all different realms, and it would be easy, and it's easy really to get sucked into that. You get stuck in the 24-hour news cycle. You get stuck on watching certain individuals that are on social media and how they approach certain things, almost always with some sort of negativity or toxic bent on it. And so it is really important to look at what are those influences that you're allowing in, because they do have, just like I said last week, right, where some of this situation, when you're dealing with a toxic person, sort of that stench of the in that individual in that situation, it sticks to you and it permeates in other areas of your life or your work. But the same is true for what we're allowing to influence up here, and that's really critical. And so I'm really interested in diving into this topic because I think it's so important for our audience to really think about that. Look at what you're doing, where you're spending your time. What are those influences? Are they positive, negative? Are they motivational or demotivational? What kind of impact is it having on your mental health, your livelihood, your zest or enthusiasm for your relationships or career path, etc. I think it's really important.
So it also influences your character. We do a program called the Environments Program, which is all the environments that surround you, like your network, your relationships, your physical environment, all of that, and how they nurture you or they demolish you. But the key environment is your mimetic environment or the memes within which you filter everything in your life. It's how you were programmed as a kid.
Yeah.
I remember doing a class in Italy. They were laughing their heads off because I said, when you're a parent, as a mother, I said to my son, look both ways before you cross the street. He moved to England. I said, you look left first, you're dead. So I said, as a matter of fact, growing up in Montreal, if you look on a one-way street, you look left first, even if it's a one-way going right, they're going to be backing up at the same speed as you're going forward. So you need to look both ways, even
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
one-way street. And they were just cracking up. These are the paradigms. And when I teach and I have them take notes, they use foolscap paper. They write from margin to margin. The foolscap
Yep.
paper with
Yep.
the pink margin. And I say edge to edge is my instructions. They never do edge to edge because they're programmed to go from that pink line to the other pink line. And
Yep.
so I have them fill in the margins with more text because they don't even process that those instructions. And this is our mimetic environment. The more we hang out with people or read stuff that affect us profoundly and emotionally and everything else, the more it's going to influence our choices, our thinking, our relationships, our work, everything.
Yeah.
So I had to start making conscious choices. I will no longer listen to the news before I go to sleep. I get so invested in whatever's going on in this world that my head will not turn off when I go to
Yeah.
sleep. I will read the news first thing in the morning because it influences my day, my work, and everything else. I need to be informed, and I want to be informed. I will no longer follow people who throw garbage on Twitter and some of the other social media platforms
Yeah.
because I want to be informed. I don't want to have give witness to people demolishing other people, which is happening more and more on social media. So, like maybe I'm protecting myself too much. I don't think so. I think I want to be able to give freely of myself, and to do that, I need to be very careful at what I'm filtering, my thinking through. So, I really love that. Look at what's in your mental diet. When's the last time you actually consciously took note of what social media sites you go on, who you're reading, what news, streams or stations you're watching or listening to, and what do you do with it afterwards?
Yeah.
I bet you that our listeners and even us, unless we do it consciously, absolutely don't pay attention to it, but it has a profound impact on our lives.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you might remember back in February we did for our Ripple membership the Life Pie, where you're investing your time and your energy and your focus. And one of the things that has been really interesting to look at relative to this particular topic is how much of those things that you're spending your time in are consuming those parts of your life. Like if you think about what you just said, I can't watch the news at the end of the day because before I go to bed, because I won't sleep, because it will just, it'll just tumble around in that, brain of yours. And it won't allow you to shut off and wind down. It's because, there's so much negative news. There's so much going on that there's this impact, and you think, God, how do we allow that to happen? But that's exactly how all of these different influences really do work. They are, everything is designed to get our attention, right? To grab our small 30 seconds of attention span, especially when it comes to the news. And so what sells, sex and
Yeah.
murder are generally, dominating in some capacity almost every bad, news story that you see. And that's what keeps people tuned in. It keeps people going, oh my God, what's wrong with this world? But then you turn it over to social media and it's that times 20, and you can really find yourself. I've stopped, I have a pretty much a rule where I will not look at any social media past 7:30 or 8 in the evening, mainly because I don't want to get sucked into any of the negativity, or I don't want to find that I have just almost automatically go on autopilot, just start scrolling mindlessly, because you can go down these rabbit holes, which also works against your mental health and really it creates all sorts of challenges. And so I think you have to choose very intentionally what influence that you're going to allow to creep in. And I think you have to set some limits. The thing about the life pie that's interesting is when you start looking at just all the different things that you are investing your energies towards and putting work towards, it's really incredible to see how much of these things sort of creep in throughout the day. And then we wonder why we're unmotivated, or we feel a little bit more negative, or just a little bit downtrodden because of whatever we've just read or whatever we've allowed to creep in. And what I what I found when I did my own life pie is some of the things that I really love, which is, reading fiction and, drawing just for an
Yeah.
hour mindlessly, and spending time on things that really sort of, really kind of put wind in my sails. I wasn't spending enough time doing that. And I'm giving everybody else my time and energy and attention in these things that don't work against me, which means that's just not a good choice, right? And it's an opportunity to make some changes. And so that was a real benefit to going through that exercise and having an understanding of where am I spending my time and what can I be doing differently to have a better outcome for myself, for my own happiness, my own mental health, and really at the end of the day, more just fulfillment in various aspects of my life that I just had, because of bad habits, just gotten off of.
One of my posts fairly recently was about mental choices. I don't know if that's the term that I really want to use. However, the gist of it was, you could wake up in the morning with a list, your to-do list in your brain going, I have to do this, 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 and this. Instead, if you woke up and said, what am I going to do today that has meaning and that will really have impact? That is such a different,
Mm-hmm.
focus. And you could look at your to-do list afterwards and say, okay, what of this really has meaning? And make choices accordingly. It's the same thing with your mental health.
Yep.
You could look at the news. I mean, I look at Ukraine and my heart aches for the people in Ukraine and what they're
Yep.
dealing with, and they're, people trying to take away their freedom. And is there anything I could do here? No, not about the conflict overseas. What I can do is help make couples' lives better who have immigrated to Canada and to Ottawa, to give them, things that they need for their home, and introduce them to people, and help them figure out what's next for them career wise, because they have to make a living in a new country. And most of the time they don't even speak the language. So
Yeah.
there are always things that you could do in response to the things that you're reading on the news. I'm not going to talk about shootings, because it's almost like a joyful feeling when I wake up in the morning and there hasn't been a massive shooting in the news. That to me is something to celebrate. What can we do as individuals? People say there's nothing I could do. I'm just one person. Of course, there's something you could do. You could be more than one person. You could be one person plus one person plus one person.
Mm-hmm.
So don't stop at this is getting me down. Stop at, what could I do that has meaning, that and positive impact, turns things around. Definitely look at your mental diet.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, how much time do you spend on all the social media platforms? I mean, we encourage you to go to Facebook to join our group so that we can have the conversation. But it's not, for us to see how many ka-ching, ka-ching, people who
Yeah.
read our posts. It's to say, here's a platform for you to share something that is on your mind that we could have a group think on. That's such a different use of social media. And it's a way to have community when you don't have community. You
Yeah.
could have community around, a certain way of thinking, a certain way of doing. So look at it from multiple perspectives and ask yourself, what in my mental diet continuously gets me down? And the second question is, what is stopping me from not doing it anymore?
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, who's twisting your arm to go on social media?
Right.
Who's twisting your arm to hang out with that person who drives you nuts on a regular basis? That's the bottom line. It's it's something for us to take the time. There's your pie there.
Yeah.
Take the time to actually review what you do with your time.
And what would you like to invest that time in that would be different and more rewarding, or perhaps more
That's
inspiring? Take a
yeah.
class, read a new book. That there's the appetites of your mental indulgence was a line from a movie that I cannot remember from what it came from, but I always remember that because it's really a good one. It's, what are you choosing to put into your head, and what are you trying to or where can you find good content, good information that will inspire you or let you get lost in in an adventure, or find a new skill or new hobby that will give you that sense of personal satisfaction and accomplishment, right? That inner smile that you look for, not because somebody recognizes you for what you painted or what you drew, or that you built or developed, right? None of that's really that critical. It's the internal satisfaction that you get when you find something that really has something of value. And so I often encourage my coaching clients, like, where are you, what are you reading, and what is where are you getting your good information to put in your brain, on an ongoing routine basis. What sites are you subscribing to? Where do what books do you read that can support maybe what you're doing professionally? But at the end of the day, you also have to have the yin and the yang. There's that technical and tactical, but you also need the inspirational, the motivational, finding avenues to share a good article, share good information. And then I always encouraged my clients that that's an opportunity. If it inspires you, it might inspire someone else that maybe a coworker, a colleague, maybe a good friend, someone within your network. Share that good information, because that ripples on and creates even more opportunities. And much like what we do with this show, is the goal behind that is when you have something of value that you can carry forward, that you took some benefit from, and you can say, hey, Donna, I think you might like this as well, or you might enjoy it. I know you just sent me recently an article, that you thought I would get a kick out of. And that just has this huge impact on my day, right? When you do those things, because it's somebody's paying attention to you. Someone, thought of you when they read this and thought you might get something out of it. And if it's more positive momentum, then that's even more beneficial. But the value for everybody concerned is you really create some more positivity. Very similar to how negativity works, right? In terms
That's
of the
right.
virality of that, but you can stem that tide and you can step up and be that one person. And like you said, I'm one, you're one, so and so is another one. If we keep that momentum going, the better off we can be. And so I think that one of the biggest lessons I would say, for our audience to really, take away from is looking closely at what's going in here. And if it's not supporting you and you feel more disenfranchised or more frustrated, or it makes you more angry, then you probably need to tweak that filter and look for other ways to put better, more supportive content into your brain. And the mental value is significant. I know from my own personal experience, it can be life changing to make this radical shift, and it is a radical shift. And I'm not proposing that you become a Pollyanna, that hey, not the bad stuff in Ukraine's not happening, or the bad stuff with the economy is not happening. Those things are important to stay informed on, but be selective about where you're getting your information and your data. And then be open to understanding and learning, but at the same time, then find something that can balance that yin and that yang. So learn and understand how to create that balance. And because left to your own devices, it will always be, off kilter, and unfortunately not in a positive way.
So it's interesting you say that, because now when I'm listening to the news, I paint as often as I possibly can. A lot of you know that I paint porcelain. That's my mental health relaxation. And by the way, one of our listeners actually commented on one of my cups. Thank you, Susie. I appreciate that. That you noticed.
That's
I didn't even
awesome.
notice the cup that I had at the time when we were taping. And the other thing that I do, and I'm going to ask you this question as well, is what do you do differently? When I speak, so often I'm asked, what books do you read on coaching? Like, what are the coaching books that you could recommend? And my answer is, I don't recommend coaching books. You're learning how to coach, you're being certified as a coach, then you follow the program, you practice the program. What I do is I read about people, because my work impacts people and organizational systems, because I'm a coaching psychologist. So I look at what are the healthy organizational systems through story. So I
Yeah.
read stories about people. I don't care if it's fiction. I don't care if it's nonfiction. I'm going to read about people, their lives, exactly how they handled trauma or turbulence. And I'm going to learn through people's eyes and through the stories that they tell. That's what informs the work that I do. That's what tells me these are critical pieces in people's lives that really would benefit if they were addressed with a coach. So I don't read subject matter expert books on my field. I read about the people and the organizations that they impact.
Yep.
That is going to give me eye-opening data to actually address. And when I'm stressed, I have something I could go to, which is my painting, playing with our dog Shadow, who is a scream at every point in time. That dog has a mind of his own. So it takes you away from the tension. If you feel your body tensing up, it starts off with your mental state.
Yeah.
Definitely what you just witnessed, heard, experienced. Figure out a way to just flush it out of your system through something that's joyful. If you take that with you through your day and your relationships and everything else, they will blow up eventually, as will you.
Yep. Yeah.
So I just invite you to balance that out. Balance out the stress with the joy and find something that is such a joyful outlet for you that you're just going to take a deep breath. And I want to hear that from our readers. I want to hear from our readers, what do you do to balance the stress in your life? Keep it clean. That's all I ask. But share with us. Give us some ideas of things that we never even thought of.
Yeah.
Um, things to read. I have Sarah Ben Brethnoch wrote a whole bunch of books on romancing the ordinary and the daily, her daily wisdom. I forget the name of the book because I suck with names. And they're out of print, a lot of them. So I get them at secondhand stores and give them out to clients and family and friends. They're fabulous books to ground me, to help me see what joy is. Romancing the ordinary.
Yeah.
You make something beautiful out of the ordinary every day, stuff that happens in your life. So I want to hear from you, and I want to hear from our readers. What is it that you do to balance, that mental anguish or tension with something joyful?
Yeah, so we definitely want to encourage our audience members to really participate and contribute. So whether you're following us on YouTube, leave us a comment on there or on our Facebook page. Donna, how do people get involved there and become part of that community?
It's Inquiring Minds with Donna Carlin and Steve Harper. Join the group. Let us know what you think, what you want us to talk about, and how it's impacted you. We want to hear your 3 cents as well, not just from us.
Absolutely.
It's good.
Well, be sure to check out Donna's great work at donnacarlin.com. That's Carlin with a K. And then you can learn more about the Ripple and what I do, ripplecentral.com. The beautiful thing about these episodes when we do them, is that these are opportunities to have some of that positive mental diet that you can take advantage of. And we try to put forth these topics and these ideas so that you can carry them forward, have interesting conversations in your own world at the dinner table or out to dinner with friends or for your teams. And what's really been great, and Donna, I know you've heard this as well, but how many organizations are starting to use some of these topics as a great way to get some of their meetings kicked off and get conversations happening that may not have otherwise happened. And we love that. We feel honored by it. And it's such a great way for us to to put these things on the table, to have more positive, hopefully a lot more influential conversations out there that can really benefit you in whatever area of life you need to utilize it for. And so we are grateful for your continued appreciation of these topics and these episodes. We encourage you to share them far and wide with your network and utilize it as sort of your calling card, if you will, for, hey, this is a great way for us to have a conversation about this topic or this, or a particular question that we pose. So we do appreciate it. So we will be back again very, very soon with another episode of Inquiring Minds. But until then, Donna, take care.
You too. Have a great one.